Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we got our first poll release from the 2025 New Jersey governor's race. I know on screen it says 2026, that's a typo. And this is the most crucial election of the whole year. It is really anticipated to be the most competitive statewide election, major statewide election that will be taking place this year, more competitive than Virginia, more competitive than the Wisconsin court race earlier this year. And Republicans, despite this being a state that backed Joe Biden by 17 points in 2020, and obviously it got much closer in 2024, voting for Kamala Harris by under 6 percentage points, well, it's a clear-cut battleground race. It's kind of entering toss-up territory if this poll is accurate. And what the poll shows is a virtual tie. You have 13% undecided, 45% behind the Democrat, 42% behind the Republican Jack Ciattarelli. And you have a long way to go. And keep in mind, Jack Ciattarelli started off last cycle as a major underdog, and including in this poll. This poll's technically a right-aligned pollster. It's a Republican pollster, but it underestimated Jack Ciattarelli by a lot. And in 2021, their June poll had him down by 12. He only lost by 3. Now they have him down by 3. Their final poll had him down by 6. So we're going to dive into this. Can Jack win? The last New Jersey video was a big hit. We'll be expanding upon that in this video today. But either way, I have to let you guys know about our great friends over at Allegiance Gold, because while the media is obsessing about Trump's tariffs, something big is brewing and nobody's talking about it except right here. Starting July 1st, 2025, under new Basel III international banking rules, gold will officially be reclassified as a Tier 1 asset, placing it on the same level as cash and U.S. Treasuries. Translation, gold is money again. Just in the first quarter, thousands of tons of gold were quietly moved back to the U.S. from Europe. Meanwhile, central banks around the world are stockpiling gold at record levels. It's not a coincidence, it's a signal. So if the world's most powerful financial institutions are hoarding gold, why aren't you? Don't wait. Call Allegiance Gold, the trusted experts I've partnered with that have the highest ratings and accolades. They'll help you secure real physical gold and silver delivered straight to your home or placed securely inside your IRA or 401k. Go to allegiancegold.com/redeagle or call 844-790-9191. That's 844-790-9191 and mention Red Eagle, and you could be eligible to receive up to $5,000 in free metals, but only if you act now, because gold is freedom, gold is sovereignty, and starting July 1st, gold is officially money. That's allegiancegold.com/redeagle or call 844-790-9191 today. So you have this poll. Yes, it's a Republican-aligned poll, but it is not a Republican-biased pollster. In actuality, in practice, it is a Democrat-biased pollster, and it shows this race is a toss-up. It's entering virtual tie status, and we still have 4.5 months to go before the New Jersey governor's race. And you have a Republican president in the White House. You have Donald Trump in the White House. Usually you would anticipate the Democrats to do relatively well in elections this year, in elections next year. Obviously, they tend to do well in most special elections, but that's a little bit of a different ball game, because they just happen to be that like high propensity party that will show up for every little election with 5% turnout. It doesn't actually mean that they're gaining support nationwide. They would like to use that as a cope, and they used it as a cope before 2024. Doesn't matter, but this race is going to be more high profile, and you should expect a different electorate. And governor's races are more localized. That part is true. They just have the governor's race this year. They have like the state house, the state senate. They appoint their like attorney general and their statewide offices from there. They have to like run them by the state senate or whatever. But this is like the big race in New Jersey, and it's already closer in this poll than the election was between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, which Trump did very well. And the goal for Republicans in New Jersey, make these red circles bigger. That's really what it comes down to, relatively speaking, because you're going to have lower turnout, but you need to juice the turnout as much as possible. Get 100,000 votes over the Democrat in Ocean County. That would be huge. Get to 70%. Limit the amount of votes in Democrat places like Newark. And you could look at the shift map, and that was Donald Trump's strategy, and it worked out. 19-point shift to the right in Passaic County, or however you pronounce it. I know there's a lot of tough counties to pronounce, but you saw Bergen County almost flip. You're going to need to get out those low propensity Trump voters at a very high rate, at a higher rate than the Democrats are going to get out their low propensity voters, which exists too. But the dynamics have changed, and Republicans are the party that tend to do better when turnout is much higher. And hopefully you get an electorate that is in line or redder than the electorate that we saw in 2024, because if that's the case, then you have more to work with. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, that would be crucial. Jack Ciattarelli, he has Trump's endorsement, but he also has kept his distance to the point where he has more appeal to moderates and independents who might not like Trump for one reason or another, but might, consider voting Republican for statewide office. So that's kind of the goal. And that was Trump's strategy. It was a base plus strategy. You get the base out in the red areas and you find voters to limit those blue circles and the blue areas, because that's what determines it. That's what determines who wins a state. It's the total vote. Certain areas, you win the big county. Like this is a very large county by area, but you only net 2,000 votes because nobody lives there. Meanwhile, a small county like Essex County, that's hitting the Democrats 160,000 votes or so, despite it being a small county by area. So those circles are really telling as to how this election is going to go, and we'll see what happens. But it was close in 2021. Phil Murphy's actually more unpopular, according to certain polls, and he only won by less or a little bit more than 80,000 votes. But nobody thought this election was going to be close, and you could look at this, and Republicans kind of left Jack out to dry. They focused a lot of their energy on Youngkin, and he could have outspent Phil Murphy if they actually did their job, but he was not able to do so. And this time I think they're going to leave Sears out to dry, which is probably, in my opinion, the best strategy, because I don't think she's going to beat Spanberger. And when you look at the rankings, though, solid Dem, likely Dem, I had it as, D+5 in that ballpark. And actually they underperformed the Democrats, my expectations, but you had a unique environment. And I do think it's possible it can be replicated in the state of New Jersey. It's moving to the right. Republicans are energized, they're emboldened there, and they are closing the gap. And you have a candidate who is running, who's relatively strong overall, a good fit for the state, and could beat somebody who is not very popular, had the entire establishment's backing, and couldn't even get 34% in the Democratic primary, and you had the last place finisher winning 2 counties. That's how divided and fractured and fragmented their party is, and that's a good sign for the Republicans, because you saw Jack Ciattarelli go out there and win decisively in the Republican primary on the Republican side, more decisively than he won by in 2021. So either way, there's a lot of potential hope for Republicans here, because you could take advantage of this. That doesn't mean it's the be-all and end-all, but another thing that's important to note is the lay of the land. And you can look at this poll by Emerson, who was pretty accurate in New Jersey overall. And you could look at the polls here, by the way, for the previous election cycle. Emerson actually underestimated Jack by 3. This final poll from the poll that was released today underestimated him by 3. So you kind of see how this is shaking out. New Jersey's a hard state to poll. Republicans have actually been outrunning the polls there lately. We'll see if that continues, but you have to turn out a lot of those lower propensity voters. You could turn out more in a governor's race than like a special election, but still it's very crucial. But if Trump's approval is really at 47, I don't know if that's even the most accurate sample, because I don't know if it's that high, but Trump did get in the state of New Jersey. If you want to look at it here, he ended up receiving in the state, if we could pull this up, 46% of the vote. So that's a little bit higher than the vote share he got, and 47% disapprove. So that could mean Trump voters are more energized to answer the polls, which means that they could be more energized to vote for all we know. But still, it's important to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But what is true is that Governor Murphy is way underwater. So let's say Trump is at really 45% in New Jersey. Murphy's at 40%. Even if he's a little bit higher, he's still underwater. which is absolutely brutal. And 53% prefer the next governor works with Trump instead of stand up to Trump. So even if people don't like Trump in New Jersey, there's a lot of independents who would rather have like a governor who could work with him than a governor who's going to be like Newsom and try to grift to the 2028 nomination by like standing up to him or whatever. And you look at this poll, that's absolutely brutal because incumbent governors are usually popular. If they're underwater, that's going to make it a lot harder for the natural successor to win. Sometimes they can effectively distance themselves, but still, when you're underwater in a state like New Jersey and Republicans are putting up a strong candidate, it's shaping up to be a very tight race. And that's the main point of this video. So all eyes are going to be on New Jersey. We'll analyze all the polls as they come out of New Jersey ahead of this upcoming election in November, because that's the most important election this year. And then after that, the midterms are going to be absolutely crucial in 2026. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.